Hey kids, Dad here with the latest news from the trail. The last episode, I was in Tehachapi at an Airbnb, and we ended up spending 2 nights there, and we took a 0 day and just relaxed and cleaned up, and we ended up getting some sushi. And the sushi was surprisingly good for Tehachapi sushi. Between the place where we got off trail and the next major pass, which is Walker Pass, those were miles 558 to 652, so that was about 94 miles. We decided to cut 8 miles off of that by slack packing it from miles 558 to 566 and a half, and that was a really nice day. We got kind of a late start in the evening hours, so it wasn't too hot, and we just packed enough water and food for the couple hours that it took us to walk that distance. And it was a really beautiful walk. Got back to the highway just as it was getting dark, and then we got a ride back into Tehachapi. Got some Del Taco for dinner, and then we got a room at a Best Western. We all piled in there and spent the night, and then got a ride back to the trail the next day on the 18th. That day was a tough day because we had to pack in 5 to 6 days of food and a full load of water because the next water source was about 16 and a half miles from the trailhead and quite a bit of uphill. So that was a tough day. We ended up in a place called Golden Oaks Spring, which is just a pipe that goes into a from comes from a spring with a small trickle. And because the water sources are really scarce in that stretch, all the backpackers kind of congregate in the same area. So we cowboy camped there and then got up the next day on the 19th and walked from 583 to 602, which is 19 miles. That was another pretty long day. The first stretch of that was 10 miles to a water source that was about a mile from the trail, so a 2 miles round trip to get water, and in a pretty steep uphill walk back from the spring to back to the trail. And then we hung out for a little while until the heat kind of cooled, the day cooled off a little bit, and then we walked the other 9 miles to the next water source, which is Robin Bird Spring. And that was at 602. And yeah, that was a rough day. Then the next day was the 20th of May, and we I walked from 602 to about 608, so only about 6 miles until a thunderstorm started rolling in, and I decided to set up my tent to kind of wait it out. And the others were back at the spring because Anne was having a hard time walking because of she had an injury to her foot, and so ended up spending the night there at 608 and managed to get off trail thanks to a local trail angel, and so she's getting her feet looked at and healing up. The next day on the 21st of May, walked from 608 to 616, so only about 8 miles that day. I was a little bit worn out, and so were the other members of the group. That day we got to benefit from trail magic from a guy named Old Yeller, and that was at the Landers Meadow Camp. And he lives locally, and he likes to cook food for the hikers, and that was very nice of him. And then we ended up walking to 616, which is where Kelso Valley Road is. And then there we were met by another trail angel named Optimist. And Optimist he's a hiker and a guide who also does trail magic for people, and he brought beers and Gatorade and made us quesadillas. So that was really good, and it was great for me because I'd eaten through almost all my food, and I was running low on food. So it really helped having two trail magic episodes in one day. And so we camped there at 616, and while we were there, there's a water cache that's maintained by a fellow who goes by the name of Devilfish, and he actually maintains two pretty large water caches, and he puts a lot of effort and time into that. So big thanks to him. I don't know what we would do. It'd be much more difficult to go through that stretch of trail without the water caches because there aren't very many natural water sources there. Then on Monday, the 22nd of May, We got up, walked 15 miles to that water cache at Bird Spring Pass. That's at mile 631. At that water cache, there's also a cache of battery banks that's maintained by the same trail angel. And so we were able to charge up our devices, our phones, and our headlamps and things like that. But while we were there, at about 2:30 or so p.m., we started seeing these thunder clouds rolling in, and we started hearing the thunder and seeing the lightning. So we all set up our tents and kind of got in them, and it was a pretty intense thunderstorm for about an hour or so. And then once that passed, we decided that we would pack up our tents and stuff and keep walking. And we walked about another, about 4 miles or so just to get the next mountain out of the way. And that was a really beautiful walk. It was, again, we caught the sunset as we were going up the mountain. So really beautiful views, really beautiful foliage. And the next morning on the 23rd of May, we left mile 635 at about 7 in the morning. And that was just a beautiful stretch of trail through pine forests. And we really wanted to get to the Walker Pass campground, which is at mile 651. We were almost all out of food and we were pretty tired, and that stretch was really just kind of took its toll on us. So we ended up getting to the Walker Pass campground in the afternoon. It was a little bit disappointing as a campground. It's a BLM campground, so there's really not much there. There wasn't a lot of shade, and the closest water was a half a mile walk. And we were told that the water wasn't very good to drink. Even if you filtered it, it didn't smell good, it didn't taste good. So we decided to walk to the monument and attempt to hitch a ride into the nearest town to resupply and get some rest. From there, we hitched a ride into Ridgecrest, which is a small city close to the China Lake Naval Air Weapons Station. And I stayed at a motel that was across the street from a sushi restaurant. So of course that's where we had dinner, and I ate probably more sushi than I've ever eaten in my life. And there was also a grocery store right next to that, so I was able to resupply. And then there was a steakhouse down the street, which is where we had dinner the next night. So a lot of protein and a lot of food, and got some good rest. And then on the 24th of May, just took a 0 day to get cleaned up and eat. And on the 25th of May, we got a ride back to the trailhead at Walker Pass from a trail angel who goes by the name of Lightning Rod. And she got that name because apparently she has a tendency to attract lightning and when she's hiking in the wilderness, and has had a number of close calls. So, but it was really nice of her. Got us back pretty early. And that day we walked about 16 and a half miles to a place called Spanish Needle Creek, which was a really nice place. It was a really good camp spot for cowboy camping because there was tree cover and there was water nearby, not too many bugs, and I got a good night's sleep. So that was last night. Today's the 26th. Right now we are in the Owens Peak Wilderness. We're about a day and a half walk from Kennedy Meadows, which is sort of the gateway to the Sierra Nevadas. And normally I'd be really excited about going into the Sierras, but this is kind of a different year because of all the snowpack. In fact, a record snowpack for the Sierras, especially the southern Sierras. And some people have gone in to the Sierras, and most of them, it sounds like they're bailing out after about the first 50 miles. And there are several bridges that are out that are really critical footbridges to get across large either streams or rivers. So we've made the decision that we're going to get off the trail. We're going to get a ride into Sacramento to take a few days off, and then decide, figure out where we're going to get back on the trail and which direction we're going to go. So that's the update from the trail. And as usual, I want to remind the two of you that I love you and I miss you and I'm proud of you and I'm going to see you soon. But until then, be good to each other. Bye. Hey kids, one more quick update from the trail. So yesterday was the 26th of May, and after I recorded that video, went down to the Chimney Creek campground where we saw some signs for some trail magic. So of course we went over to the campground and we met up with a couple of fellows, one named Greg and the other named Paul. And Greg and Paul have been friends for over 50 years, and for the past few years they've been doing trail magic for PCT hikers. I guess Paul hiked the PCT back in 1977, back in the old days. They every Memorial Day weekend, they come out to the Chimney Creek campground and they have barbecue and beer and sodas, and we all camp out. And not only that, but they also we had some entertainment. They pulled out the guitar and the banjo and did some singing, and it was really a great time. It was a really special time, and so we ended up camping there with them and sharing stories and just enjoying each other's company. And then, so right now, I just wanted to show you behind me. That's the Sierra Nevadas back there in the background. As you can see, they're full of snow. We're probably not going to be going up into them until much later in the year, but it is beautiful, and we're all excited about getting into Kennedy Meadows, which will be probably we'll probably do that tomorrow. We'll just get we're going to savor these last few miles of the of open trail. So as usual, I will leave you with the regular video montage. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.